Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome back to the Hemi Hustlers YouTube channel. Let's turn this fan off real quick for a second. It's a beautiful night. Let me show you guys what I'm working on here. It's a Hemi swap Jeep. This is Mr. Paul's 2003 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. But it's not just your everyday Rubicon, because this is not a V6. This is not the inline 6 that I think comes in here originally. This is a 5.7 liter Hemi V8, and as the Cletus brothers would say, the Magnum brothers, right? By the way, that's my favorite YouTube channel. That's the only channel I watch, the Cletus McFarlane YouTube channel. So, you know, if you hear like some insiders, it's more than likely from them. So anyways, he hit me up with some concerns, and I just wanted to go over this inspection with you guys because it's very interesting. Hey, come here. Relax, please. Please. Anyways, so I wanted to go over this inspection with you guys because I always do an inspection before I diagnose or, you know, before I go over the client. Hey, párale. Before I go over the client's concerns, right? Because the client isn't always right. Right? So, let's see here. Let's find a nice, comfortable spot because this is a long list. Some of his concerns, one of them was the AC is cool, not cold. This high pressure line is leaking, so I need to have it remade. I need to have one made. I mean, I didn't do any of this work, by the way, right? It's already like this. Now, he says the clutch last time he was rock crawling. This is a rock crawling beast, by the way. Last time he was rock crawling up in Georgia, you know, he smelled some clutch, so we're going to upgrade that. He mentioned a McLeod clutch, so I'm going to look into the McLeod clutch for him, but I also have other clutches myself that I like. The reservoir cap, this reservoir cap here is not the correct one. He just put this for now, but I'm pretty sure it's overflowing it because it just feeds it in and then it overflows. He mentioned he wanted to make the Jeep a little louder. He doesn't like the fact that it's quiet. And honestly, I don't either. 91 octane tune, as you can see here. Let me zoom this in a little bit. 91 octane tune. He's currently running on 87. He didn't want to go 91 route, but I'm like, hey man, look, if you're trying to make any kind of power, especially here in the hot summer, we need higher octane, right? Fuel gauge is erratic. When you turn the ignition on, right, the fuel gauge will work and then it stops working, reads empty. So there has to be some sort of short in the wire or at the fuel sender, the fuel pump itself. The e-brake is inoperable. Now, this is something that's very critical in a manual vehicle. You must be able to have an e-brake. You can't just rely on the transmission to hold the weight of the vehicle, especially when you're out rock crawling. You need an e-brake. I noticed his upper right corner of the instrument cluster. So his instrument cluster, the actual gauge cluster itself, the right corner has a bulb that's dimmed out, burnt out. The rest of the gauge cluster is fine, just that one. So if I'm already going to be in there, we might as well upgrade the bulbs to perhaps some LED ones, and so it can look slick, right? Go on HP Tuners and delete as many codes as possible. Oh yeah, you don't read that. If you work for the government, don't read that. I didn't put that there. Here, we'll just skip. We'll skip. Okay. Air intake tube is loose. Not good. Especially not when you're off-roading. Potential mud, water intrusion. EGR. Oh, no, don't read that either. Radiator is 3/4 full, meaning it's low. Perhaps there's a leak, and there is a leak. Looks like the water pump is leaking, and the reservoir, I would say, is leaking as well. The water pump doesn't show actual coolant leaking, but it does have a nice trail of dirt where it has collected through the seepage of the water pump over time. Therefore, it's leaking. It's not something you will see because this truck sees a lot of dirt and dust. It accumulates on the fluid, and it doesn't present itself like a normal leak would. The belt looks questionable. I mentioned that, and it absolutely does. I'm going to replace that because the last thing we need for him is to be stranded out somewhere and the belt snaps. Upgrade to 180-degree thermostat. I have these slick new 797 performance, and I've actually used them twice already, and they work excellent. They work real good. I got the keys to staying cool all summer here in Phoenix, Arizona. Let me know. I'm actually going to review this on this specific Jeep because the last two vehicles I did it on, I totally forgot to even record it, but they work flawlessly, and I want to do it on everybody's Hemi, so let me do it on yours. Oh, and look. I'm not going to say almost done with the shade, but it's getting there. Don't even zoom in on those welds. Install engine oil catch can. Yes, this doesn't have a catch can. It ventilates, it recirculates back into the intake and back through the intake manifold. We're just robbing power there. Brake fluid is low. That is a very safety issue here. You know, I always prioritize safety. I always say that. Safety always comes first over performance. Always. Power steering reservoir is low. It is actually super low. It didn't even register on the dipstick. And that's not good. There's a bottle of brake fluid attached here, and the brake fluid is low. So, I mean, do they correlate? The sway bar has excessive play. It does. I can grab the front sway bar and just do, right? Degrease all the suspension components. The suspension components on this are very dry. It does have a lot of aftermarket, like trailing arms and whatnot. So I would definitely recommend greasing them. They do have grease certs. You know, they should be greased up. This explains the power steering leak here that I'm about to mention, but the remanufactured steering gear is leaking power steering fluid from the pinion seal where the pitman arm bolts to the actual gear itself, and that's leaking. The lower radiator hose is also leaking where it goes onto the water pump. That would explain the low coolant, and the water pump is leaking. That explains the low coolant. The front crank seal is leaking. The timing cover is leaking. Oil. Sorry, I need some water up in here. It's leaking oil, and that's not good because we don't want oil leaks. I hate oil leaks. Now, because this engine is so jam-packed in here, I know for sure I need to take this engine out and just replace every gasket, every seal. The engine itself is great. Every gasket, every seal, and perhaps while it's out here, what if I can sell Paul on that cam upgrade? You know, maybe we can do a stage 3. It's manual, so we don't even need a stall converter. We can get a stage 4, 5, 6. Now, stages don't even matter, but, you know, the point is we can get a big cam in here as long as the valves don't touch the pistons. Don't give it a little kiss. We can get a big cam in here. So that'd be pretty sick if I can sell him on that. And, you know, it's a slippery slope. As soon as you start upgrading stuff, I know he's going to want more. I'm going to get you, Paul. The right side header is missing a bolt. The valve covers are leaking oil. The oil pressure sensor is leaking oil. The oil pan is leaking oil. The front differential cover is leaking from the bottom. That's usually because rock crawling vehicles always scrape the front diff. That's the lowest point. That's what hangs the lowest. And it's pretty common on rock crawlers. That's why a lot of people upgrade differential covers. The oil pan, I know, has a hairline fracture somewhere because it is pretty dinged up from the rocks as well, and it's pretty wet. The rear main seal is leaking. That could be also why the oil pan is wet. But do we really want to chance it for the price of the pan? No. Needs cat delete. Oh, we're not talking about catalytic converters. There's like cats back there. Meow. You didn't see that. The left side driver's side exhaust is leaking. from the number 7 cylinder, which is going to give you an erratic oxygen sensor reading, and that's not what you want. We're going to replace the transmission fluid, of course, because if we are replacing the clutch, obviously, we're dropping the trans, we're replacing the fluid. The transfer case oil, I always recommend all the fluids if there is no service history. Now, if you tell me, hey, I just replaced it, well, awesome, we don't need to do it. But if you tell me, hey, I don't even know when it was replaced, if it ever was replaced, then I'm absolutely going to do it, depending on the mileage, right? If it's a new car, I'm not going to do that. But if it's a vehicle, older vehicle with heavy miles on it or some heavy abuse on it, we're definitely going to get that handled for you. Now, here is the red. I need to color that one red, because that's not good. Now, the front drive shaft has excessive play at the pinion. I might just even go down here and show you this one. This is the biggest safety concern for me right now. This is the most important thing right here. Some might say, oh, just needs a U-joint. Now look closer. Yeah, that's not a U-joint. That's a pinion. This front diff needs to be rebuilt. Why is this a safety concern? Well, at the RPM, the revolutions per minute that front drive shaft is spinning, if that thing grenades, that's not going to be a good day for anybody. It could potentially cause death. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, worst case scenario. Best case scenario, very expensive. Now, as you've seen, that's a pretty long inspection. That was hope that wasn't too boring for you guys, but I just want you guys to know how thorough I can be when it comes to inspecting a vehicle, right? There's people that are even more thorough, they'll look at window switches and all that stuff. Yeah, that's cool, but if it's really failing and it's a problem, the client will be the first one to let me know. And they don't mention stuff like that. We're worried about real concerns here, such as everything I just showed you and everything I just found on this Jeep in particular. Now, this is going to be a sick one for you Jeep guys. I know a lot of you guys are Jeep guys, and even if you're not a Jeep guy, you can appreciate a good build. It's a 5.7 Hemi manual 4x4. That's beast. You got to admit that for yourself. That's pretty sick. And stick along for the ride. This thing is pretty sick. I like those wheels. It's totally my style. The Steelies, for sure. Manual. He's not playing around. Now, you've seen it. Oh, this is one of the earlier Hemi models. This is like the first edition Gen 3. Because it still has these older style ignition coils that have the wires that go back and forth all crazy. Now, this has been changed to this style wire, which is way better. Legit way better. Now, this is a non-variable valve timing pre-Eagle 5.7 liter Hemi. So this engine does have a lot of oil leaks, and it's one of those scenarios where we're probably better off pulling the entire engine to reseal everything completely, and that's exactly what we're doing. So let me show you an update on the Jeep. So far, we have pulled the radiator, the intake, the belt, some hoses, something slight, drain the fluids. We're making progress. Right now that we have all this space, it's easier to work with. Now we're going to start detaching a lot of components little by little, because I am working on more than one vehicle at a time. I'm working on the Jeep, but I'm also working on the 300. But this video is about the Jeep. There's a lot of things I notice while I'm taking stuff apart, while we're taking stuff apart. I always just like to check everything. And like one of the things is, like, for example, that idler pulley, the bearings are really noisy, so I'm just going to replace both idler pulleys just so that's just one less noise we have to worry about, one less noise the engine's going to make, so meaning it's going to run smoother and quieter overall, because we're eliminating one less noise from the accessory drive. intake manifold is off, and I'm very pleased to see that it has been MDS deleted. That makes me very happy. And I can just hope that it has non-MDS lifters as well. Keep in mind, this is a engine, so this is a 2003 Rubicon, right? The Hemi swap that's currently in it is from a 2005 Dodge Durango. So I don't think they put MDS on those just because, you know, you need all the power on those Durangos because they're heavy boats. So I think this is a factory non-MDS engine, non-variable valve timing, so that's great. There's the intake for it. My nephew's over here working on it. Intake manifold. Right, so now we're gonna plug up all these holes and keep on going. We almost have the engine out. Got the AC compressor and the alternator, EGR tube, a lot of the accessories off. So I think we just need now to remove the headers, remove the exhaust on both the exhaust, and then the bell housing, and this baby can come straight up out. You know, right off the bat, I can tell this engine is a low miles unit, because look how clean that is in there. I mean, that's pretty clean in there. Pretty clean. Pretty clean. We were about to pull the engine, and then I noticed something. I noticed that the header would have hit the steering shaft, so he removed the header. Regardless, the header needs to come off because we're replacing that gasket as well. Look, it had an exhaust leak right here. Regardless, the header had to come off, so we just had to remove it on the engine before we take the engine out. And then we have to remove the engine mount brackets that bolt to the side of the block on both sides, and she's ready to come straight forward and straight up. We might have to remove this out of our way too, but other than that, I think that's about it, guys. She's almost there. It's almost there. This is how it looks under the vehicle. See, this is the steering shaft. It's really close to the engine, so we wouldn't have cleared the shaft. So we had to take the headers off. Now, I was gonna undo it from here, so I have my nephew undo it from here, but instead I'm gonna have him remove the 4 bolts that hold the plate to the block. So that way, instead of picking the engine up and going forward, we can just go forward, straight forward, and we don't have to go up and clear these ears on the engine mount. We got all the bell housing bolts out. I mean, look how gross this is. This is all gonna look so beautiful when we're done with the exhaust is off. We actually are gonna do some stuff with the exhaust, so stay tuned for that. Some sick little shorty to pull this engine out. Enjoy this time lapse. And just like that, the engine is out. That was kind of tricky getting it out of there. Very excited, guys. If you're new here, welcome. If you're a Hemi head like I am, well, you're really gonna enjoy the content on this YouTube channel, and we're gonna grow together. We're gonna grow together. This engine's gonna be sick setup, and I'm here to take you guys along the ride with me. And let's not forget, all honor and glory to God. Time for a much needed bath. Look at the filth on this. There's no way I'm gonna take this apart. Disgusting like this. So we got the oil pan off, and check this out. What is going on here? I've never ever seen the LGBTQ rainbow on an oil pickup tube. That's not good, cause if you think about it, I mean, look at the paint. It's covering up the holes. So in reality, that paint is restricting the amount of flow, the amount of oil that this pickup tube can pick up via all those painted, I mean, look at that, the painted restrictions. It's crazy. I've never seen that. I don't know why. I don't see the purpose at all. except for ruining an engine. That's why it was leaking. We found the issue here. If you notice, there's no silicone on the joints. No silicone, no silicone, no silicone. So then I asked myself, was this engine even rebuilt correctly then? Because there's no silicone. If I couldn't trust them to put silicone where silicone goes, how could I have trust them to build a bottom end? And just right off the bat, I'm seeing a lot of things I don't like, guys. Oh, gosh. All right, this is hilarious. I think this is hilarious. So we couldn't trust them to put silicone where it goes. Now, this is the front of the engine. As far as I'm concerned, that's not supposed to be number 5. That's supposed to be number 1. Number 1 is in the spot. So number 5 is in the spot of number 1. Number 4 is in the spot of number 2. Number 6 is in the spot of number 3. Number 1 is in the spot of number 4. Number 8 is in the spot of number 5. Number 3 is in the spot of number 6. Number 7 is, wow, 7 is the only one that's actually on 7. That's surprising. And let's see, number 2 is on number 8. And I think I've seen some slight scoring on the cylinder wall on this one. Let me zoom in a little bit. See that slight scoring? Yep. This engine looks pretty fresh, honestly. Looks pretty new. I feel like Paul, Mr. Paul, I know you're gonna watch this video. I need you to be doing your oil changes more frequently, please. So another thing I just noticed, algo más que noté aquí viendo esto brevemente, es que los tornillos ni son iguales. The bolts aren't even the same. Look at the head on this bolt. And look at the head on this bolt. That's 2 different bolts. Son dos tornillos completamente diferentes. Ay, 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 plebada. Ya sé que fue la plebada. Ya sé que fue alguien raza que hizo este jale aquí. Shaking my head. A lot of stuff looks new, but a lot of stuff looks kind of old and crusty. I mean, look at the inside of these valve covers. Those are not, that's not good. Like, this is the inside of a valve cover that gets an oil change every 10,000 miles. That is bad. That's terrible, terrible. But it's weird because the inside of the engine doesn't look like that. So it leads me to believe that these valve covers and all this was, like, have been the same way, uncleaned, since before the engine was rebuilt. So, I mean, when they rebuilt this engine, did they not wash the valve cover? And unfortunately, Paul said, we're not going to cam the Jeep this time around. Sucks because we're right here. I mean, look, the engine's right here. The cam is right here. I can take it out in 10 minutes, man. Nah, not 10, maybe like 30 minutes. I got to pop the heads off. But it's right here, Paul. Come on, man. You're killing me. But he said, it's hilarious what he told me. He's like, say, man, we're not going to be able to cam it this time around. You know, I want to keep my wife a little bit longer. That's hilarious, Paul. That's pretty funny. But yay, man. You know what they say, happy wife, happy life. However, I'm very persistent. I want to make your guys' dreams come true, even if it means putting you in $30,000 of credit card debt. I mean, look at this thing. Imagine, Paul. Imagine Mr. Paul here's on the trails, off-roading with his homies. He's the only one who has a Rubicon with the Hemi swap. Not to mention, it's chopping. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so last night, I was up late working some numbers for Mr. Paul and his Jeep. And I made magic happen. We're gonna go, well, he said, and I quote, YOLO, just do it. And that's the cam upgrade. You know, I've always been against the NSR cam line, the no springs required, because I'm like, if you're gonna do all that work, why would you put in a cam with low lift? This doesn't make sense to me. But, you know, it definitely saves you a lot of money when you don't have to upgrade the springs along with just the cam. So I opted for a comp cam, stage 1, high-rise technology. It's a no springs required cam. Has like max 500 lift, which is kind of whack because the cams that require valve springs are like 600 plus lift, and those are the ones that make power. But we're gonna get him that chop. We're here to fulfill dreams, guys. No diddy. Just remove the rocker shafts over here. Everything seems to look pretty normal. And now we're gonna continue removing the cylinder heads. Check this out. Now that the cylinder heads are off, we can look at the inside and look at the cylinder walls. We have some slight scoring, you can see there. We got some slight scoring. Some slight scoring on all of the cylinder walls, maybe more than I would like for a relatively low mile engine. That's just from right now, from us popping the cylinder heads off. And this nastiness, this black carbon buildup, you can thank the EGR system for that. You know we're gonna delete that, so. Stock 5.7 camshaft. I've never even seen that in my life. Whatever that is back there, some sort of plug. I've never ever seen that before. That's crazy. But yeah, we're gonna upgrade it. Stage 1, no springs required from comp cams. You know, doing this camshaft was actually a blessing in disguise. Because check this out. So all the cams I've ever seen is a solid chunk of metal and then it's ground out from there. But this is, I don't know what this is. This looks like a pipe. Look, it's a pipe that runs all the way through and the lobes are like pressed on or locked in place. I have no idea what's going on here, but this is some rinky-dink Chinese Joe Biden stuff we got going on right here. Check this out. This lobe right here was gonna be the first one. I don't know if you can see that. If you get here, if you want to get closer, if you can see the scoring marks. I don't know if you can see the scoring marks. There's some pretty good score marks there. This lifter was already starting to go on its way out, and it wasn't even an old one. This cam is slightly scored right here. They're all slightly scored on every lobe. So we're gonna toss this junk. It's a good thing we're not using this, and we're gonna upgrade big time. It's gonna be a huge upgrade. I mean, look at that. Watch. Let me get another cam. Follow me just for comparison, so I can show you guys what a cam's supposed to look like. Look at the difference. You see, this is not cam lobes pressed onto a pipe. This is one solid chunk of billet steel that was machined to be this. See, this is 5.7, this is 6.1, upgraded like a stage 3 cam versus a stock cam. So you can see the difference, but yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like. Real manly stuff right here. No cheap China. This is for a 426 build we're doing. But yeah, so now I guess now that we have everything apart, we're gonna go ahead and order some parts and then we'll be back to you guys soon.